Welcome to the Four Eyes podcast, brought to you by Young OD Connect. We give you a clear view into the new grad optometry world across Canada and the US. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Deepan Kaur.
And I'm Dr. Amrit Bilkhu. Hello?
Hello, folks. How are you guys doing?
Hi,
Good.
Mike.
How are you?
Good. All
Oh
right.
my gosh, I love your background.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a green screen.
Yeah.
Oh, your backgrounds are cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, mine's just the actual background.
I think Deepan's background is from like 1985. And,
Yeah.
That's
and
funny.
mine
Are
is
those-
from
okay.
IKEA.
Oh, cool photos. Is that Lake Louise?
Yeah, this is Banff. Yeah, good
Yeah.
eye.
Yeah, I'm from
Pick up.
Lloydminster.
Oh,
I think Deepan will know. She's from Calgary.
you're like, I'm from Calgary, Alberta.
Wow. That's really cool.
like small world.
Yeah, I grew up in a little town called Marwayne, right outside of Lloyd.
Oh,
I'm not from there. So I'm from
she's on the
Toronto.
opposite side. She's in
No.
Ontario and
Toronto? What part?
I'm the problem province. Honestly, I feel like Ontario's really become a big problem for the country these days.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Four Eyes podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and share your journey and your business with us. Would you mind giving us an introduction about yourself for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So, Dr. Mike Neal, I'm a practicing OD in rural Pennsylvania, tiny, not even close to thriving metropolis of Hawley, Pennsylvania, out in the Pocono Mountains. And about in 2017, 2018, I was just completely overwhelmed and ready to pull all my remaining hair out because of hiring issues in our practice.
Yeah.
So at the
Yes.
time, I was in executive
Yes.
coaching in Toronto, in fact. And what we're looking at was how these companies were hiring because they had fantastic teams, absolutely fantastic teams, did not seem to have the problem, super long-term people, et cetera. And I did a kind of an analysis of how they're doing their hiring, broke it all down and realized that they were hiring basically the exact opposite way we were. And that's why we were getting the terrible results that we were getting, reliably terrible results. We were doing everything upside down and backwards.
Yeah.
So that's, all the stuff I'm going to talk about today is from the trenches. The, where you need to wear the helmet, the Kevlar at the front desk of the practice, the whole 9 yards. It's all based upon private practice, not from, the 50,000 foot view or the catbird seat or anything like that. This is in the trenches stuff.
Which I think we're really excited for because I think it's so valuable to our listeners. Deepan has brought this up off the podcast and maybe even on the podcast in a few episodes before. The staff is so important to even the OD's experience, right? Whether you're the practice owner or the associate OD working at the clinic, you really need your staff basically keeps the clinic running and just holds everything together. And so,
Of course. Yep.
yeah, we're excited to just learn more from your experiences because I think it'll help both sides.
Yeah. And I think especially new grad ODs, they don't realize once they graduate how important staff can be. They just think, as long as the equipment's there, everything's good. But then you realize, hold on, where's my support staff? Why wasn't this done? Why, what's happening over here? Why was this booked? So I think that's one of the things Amrit and I even learned when we graduated and we were like, yeah, clinic is going okay, but what's happening? Your staff. So that's where I think a lot of challenges lie for a lot of clinics and a lot of ODs. But you kind of talked about your company, Build My Team. Can you kind of go into more detail about the goals of this business?
Yeah, you bet. So Build My Team, first of all, I wear two hats. I'm the founder of Build My Team, but I also own an optometry practice. The kicker is that Build My Team staffs our practice. I have nothing to do personally with the hiring of the team members in my own practice. And it is a godsend. It is all the stress in the world off my back. We have essentially a bat phone. When somebody gives their notice or we need to replace anybody, we reach out to Build My Team. They essentially do all the work to fill the position. Now, that was created from my cell phone back in
Wow.
2018. Built an email model to reach out to applicants and to generate applicants, reach out to them, etc. It was a complete failure. Email is a disaster for hiring, and I know there's a lot of young people listening to this podcast. You guys already know.
Yeah.
Everybody's using text nowadays, like emails.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So built this system that essentially functions to get as many applicants as possible to apply for the jobs that are open within the practice, selects the A players out of those applicants. And it does so not by finding the A players, the superstars. It does so by rejecting everybody else. And this is critical. This is how Disney, the Four Seasons, these incredible customer service organizations that have these superstar team members, consistently great team members, that's how they do it. And that's the system that we built. So the end result is we have clients that reach out to us. They have a position that just opened up. Our team will write the job description, publish it to 22 different job boards, take all of the applicants, and there are a whole bunch of applicants for these positions, run them through an assessment process. It's a very specific psychometric assessment process that the candidates do. And when they are done that process, we essentially know more about them than they know about themselves in terms of their strengths and talents and what they're naturally good at. And the absolute end result is a video interview for the finalist candidates, which our Build My Team team members do. And then we send over the anywhere between 1 to 3 superstars to the practice. That's the entire system that's built. And it's automated extremely fast because of the automation. And so it gives a practice a flat out big competitive advantage in the hiring process. And that's what Build My Team does. By the way, 2 things I wanted to mention. Quite affordable, like very affordable, far cheaper than what you're doing it yourself for. And the clients that really love our service that we provide, they do something else. They don't do the hiring. They're not knee deep in resumes, dying of paper cuts. They're not freaking out on Monday morning because they're not sure if the team members are going to show up. Those days are over. They don't live in fear anymore of what's happening with the team. It changes your life as an OD, especially as an owner. And so that's what Build My Team does, and has done that for a practice for 6 years now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, long answer, but that's the whole summary. Yeah.
No, I mean,
I have
that's
a
great.
question about like the automated system. Is there a minimum amount of applicants that need to apply? Like what if there's, I don't know, less than 200 or something? Is that enough, or do you need a certain amount?
Yeah, so we
for it to
reject
work?
on average, statistical average right now, we reject 97% of applicants.
Wow.
And so that gets the cream of the crop. One of the ways I would describe it is the Build My Team approach is not based upon looking for experience. Okay, so to get the number of candidates that you're talking about, we're not looking for experience. Experience within our model is, and it's a little counterintuitive, it's more of a red flag. We'll call it a pink flag. Okay, I learned that term the other day. Experienced people, when they have the natural strengths and talents for the position, they're unbelievably good. They're also extraordinarily rare. What ends up happening more often than not is somebody will come in with an experience, and this happens tremendously to younger OD practice owners. They demand, they require, they have entitlement. I've been doing this for 30 years. You weren't even in diapers when I started. I've heard all those things. And what our model does is we find people who they have a healthcare mindset, because we test for that. They naturally want to help people. We measure their speed of learning. They naturally learn quickly. Okay. So not too quickly, because if they're as smart as a doc, they leave. It's not challenging enough. If they don't learn quickly, they never leave, but you can't wait to fire them because it's terrible, right?
Very true.
You're just
So we measure,
waiting, like, all right,
So true.
when are you
Just
giving your
waiting for you to
notice?
mess up
Tell
so
me.
you can just
Yeah.
strike them out.
Yeah. Don't worry, you won't have to wait long. It's momentarily, right? I mean, That's how long it takes. So we measure their speed of learning, and then we also measure a whole bunch of critical factors about them, how they work, what they're naturally good at, how they handle stress. Do they handle details and versus kind of loosey goosey with details?
Mm-hmm.
How strong is
Mm-hmm.
their follow up? We have pages of this information, like
And this
pages
is
of it.
all
That's
automated to
amazing.
like
Yeah.
select candidates. Wow.
Yeah. So what this boils down to is when Build My Team sends over a candidate for the role, for our clients, we already know they can do the job. We know that
Yeah.
before they even get to the video interview.
Yeah.
What So there's no maybe about that. We know they're excellent at the job because they have the natural strengths and talents for the job. And the video interview, the purpose of that is to determine if they would be a great fit for your practice or
Yeah.
not. So things like, are they as a podcast guest? If I showed up in a tank top for your podcast, would I be respecting your podcast? Like we all know the answer to that. Of course not, right? So we want somebody who's going to take the position seriously. They take the
Yeah.
interview seriously, because if they don't, they're going to not take your practice seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're representing you. So,
Yeah.
we have team members that review these, and they're not looking for whether you're black, white, green, pink. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. Your gender doesn't, none of that stuff matters. We're so
Mm-hmm.
past that. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. What matters is how they're going to perform in your practice.
Yeah.
This entire model is optimized to find performers.
Yeah.
And in a new OD practice or a younger OD practice, you won't figure out how to do that
Mm-hmm.
because we're hiring based upon resumes and
Yeah.
interviews.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And those don't work to find rock star performers unless you get lucky. That's it.
Everything you're saying is so true. And I feel that right now because I just went through a hiring process and we just
Mhm.
hired our second team member for my new practice. And
Yep.
yeah, it was a lot of shuffling through paper resumes. It was, screening all these, like 40, 50 applicants, printing them all out, highlighting each experience. And even when they sounded amazing on paper,
Yeah.
then the phone interview is absolutely terrible. The way they speak, they're not confident in the way they speak, or they really sound like they don't care about the position when they speak. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, why did you apply for this position?
Well,
So just so much
have
of
you
that.
tried
And it's,
applying for one? When you apply for a position on the major job sites, you don't have
yeah.
to read the job.
Yeah,
I
it
know.
just like applies for you. Like you
Right.
don't even know what you applied for. So
Exactly.
we've had applicants like that. I don't even think they knew where they who was calling them.
When
Like,
we solve that problem with Build My
yeah,
Team, when they apply for a job, within 5 seconds, their cell phone buzzes with a text message from Build My Team.
yeah.
5 seconds.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Why isn't it 10? Because 10 was too long. They'd already
Mhm.
moved on to the next job.
Yeah.
Um, Docs
Yes.
don't have the faintest clue how horrendous it is on the hiring side of things when you aren't combating the systems that these job boards put into place. Like
Yeah.
you have to actively combat them. So that's one of the massive advantages that Build My Team has versus trying to do it yourself.
Mhm.
The other is simply the effectiveness. I mean, we're rejecting almost 97% or a little higher of the positions. So
Mhm.
when the candidates get sent over, we guarantee each of the candidates because we know they're going to work out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
guaranteed for 90 days. And from a cost standpoint, it's absolutely positively much less than you're spending now. And it is
Yeah.
also, I mean, quite simply, in a new practice, I would argue that the time from the owner has to be spent on building the practice. There is nothing more valuable than that.
Yeah.
Not dying from 1,000 paper cuts from resumes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. Build My Team sounds awesome. And I think when we think about now post-COVID world, the staffing industry has changed so much because I think you said you started this in 2018, correct?
You betcha. Mhm.
So how did Build My Team adapt to like this new kind of environment of hiring and just how staff members just perform, in the office on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think the first thing we noticed was that statistically, because everything we do is just measured,
Yeah.
we have feedback loops, so we continuously improve. It's measured, it's algorithmic, it's repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
We noticed a number of applicants was after COVID, I mean, down. Depending on the area of the country, because we're in the US and US and Canada,
Mm-hmm.
some of the areas were down 50%. A lot of folks who were working in healthcare or that labor pool that like to work as an administrative person in healthcare, a good amount of them just flat out decided that they can stay home and make a similar amount of money,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Very
or
true.
childcare, like there's all kinds of reasons, but that aspect of the labor pool has diminished. And
Wow.
it's substantial in certain areas of the country. So that was one thing that we noticed. The way that we combat that is quite simply making sure we have as many applicants as possible. Because
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that our new customers say is they're getting hardly any applicants.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine
Mm.
you have a position, like you said, what, 40 resumes you were looking through? What
Yeah.
if you had four? You
Beg.
post a position. Yeah, you post a
Beg.
position, you got like four people, you look at the resumes, like you have
Yeah.
to be kidding me. I'm,
Yeah.
you know, um, and from in our world, looking at those resumes, you could be sitting on a superstar. You have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
You have no
Right.
idea because a resume doesn't tell you what somebody's good at.
Yeah.
It will
Definitely.
say things like I can type, I know how to use Microsoft Word.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used
And who even
to,
knows if that's true half the
It's
time? I feel like a
yeah.
lot of people don't, they're not honest on their resumes.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, you're right. You can't really tell personality and work ethic from a resume.
no,
Um,
one of the
but
things we
yeah,
used
go
to
ahead.
do in our practice was I did this for a while and I just got tired of it. I walk them over to a computer and I have them start typing, doing this. Peck, peck, peck. Like, oh
Oh.
yeah, you can type 60 words a minute. No, you can't. You got to be kidding me, right? So
Yeah.
now with most of the practice management software, it's more web based and click, 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 click. So the typing's a little bit less so. But that was a really good kick in the pants for me as a business owner that resumes are made up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
right?
Yes.
Like flat
Definitely.
out made up.
Mhm.
And in terms of reference checks and all the rest of that, good luck. Almost all employers are now worried about giving any information out via reference check because they're afraid they get sued by,
Yeah.
for who knows what. So
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't even work. Our approach on the psychometric side of things works so well because it demonstrates their actual talents and strengths.
I have a quick add-on question to this, and then we can
Yeah.
move on to another part of this topic. But so if Build My Team is reaching out to a bunch of applicants and
Hmm.
in different settings, how are you collecting those applicants though initially? Is it through their resumes first and then you sift through those resumes for like certain
No,
words? Like how do you grab the applicants in the first place?
we
Or
don't
how
look
do
at
you
the resumes until the very end of the process.
Okay. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So how do we grab them? They
Yeah.
apply for the job, they get a text, and the text asks
Oh,
them to walk through our process,
got it.
I
our
see.
assessment process. And right off the
Okay.
bat, about a quarter of them don't do that.
Yeah, so then you're
Okay.
already ruling out the lazy people
Yep.
who won't do it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Those are the people whose resumes you printed,
Yeah.
right? So out
Yeah.
of 40 people, what's that? 10? It's late at night here. 10 people whose resumes you printed had to go through.
Yeah.
Those 10 people wasted your time
Yeah. Yeah.
because statistically they want nothing to do with your practice
Yeah.
Right.
because it just got hard,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So I
So
don't know about
true.
you guys, but I don't want to hire somebody who is afraid of hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is eye care, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Hard's
so
every
true.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fair. That's good.
Yeah.
And then I just had a question about, so say you go through all these applicants, they make it to the video part where,
Yeah.
you're interviewing them. What are you specifically looking for at that part? Is it more like personality? Like what kind of questions are you asking them at that point?
Well, we have questions that have we're really lucky. We nailed those questions early on. And by the way, I wanted to quick plug for the video interview process. 95% of people show up for those video interviews.
Oh, it's
Mm,
good.
So think about that next time we have an interview in person and nobody shows up. Like these
Yeah.
people have something invested into it.
Yes.
So, what are we asking them? Well, some of those are part of the secret sauce, but what we're asking them is not necessarily the point. It's how they answer the question.
Got it.
Because the how is giving us a massive amount of information about that person. Things like their verbal cadence, are they using slang? There's a whole bunch of stuff we look for. So I'll give you an example. This is a story that just early on just blew my mind. One person after another after another. This didn't just happen once. It happened a whole bunch of times and continues to happen. We had young women dressed in their interview suits or jackets, pantsuits, that type of thing. Guess where they were doing their video interview? They were standing in their bathtub with their shower curtain wide open. The bathtub was right across from the sink. The sink had the best lighting in the house.
Oh,
So
okay.
they're standing in the bathtub. Their cameras on the kitchen sink. They got it rigged up somehow so they can do the entire video interview standing with essentially a shower curtain right above their head. They look great. Now,
Okay.
at first, we didn't know what to make of this, and then have a couple powwows. And one of our team members, who is a mom, she said they're doing this because it's the only place in the house that is quiet. The kids are outside, they're quiet. She's got the door locked. The lighting is fantastic, and the light bulb went on in our heads. I'm like, oh my God, these are winners. These are fantastic people. They have virtually no resources. They got bupkis to rub together here.
But they're
And
doing the
yet
best that they can.
they did the absolute best that they can. They're knocking it out of the park. So you think of how that
Interesting.
extrapolates, right? So you take a person like that in a practice with very few resources, and you say, like, hey, we got to get this thing done. We have hardly any way to get it done. How can we do this? And that's the type of person that
That's
is
the
going to
person.
immediately start cooking. How do we accomplish this goal? They flew through all of our assessments. They're fantastic. Their video interview to a lay person would be like, absolutely not. And the real answer is, as fast as you possibly can, make them a job offer.
Mm,
So how much of that can you discern from a resume?
nothing.
None.
Zero.
Zilch.
Exactly. Zilch. Right. And so when you dive super deep into this process with with people, you can't tell what they're good at. You can't tell what their strengths and talents are from a traditional process. That's why we had to change the game. And we did change the game. And now we can reliably get people, these A players, into the positions. And guess what? A players perform exceptionally well.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
love that. I'm like
Yeah.
thinking everything that you're talking about, I'm now thinking of like all the like red flags that we picked up when we interviewed people. Deepon, you're
Yep.
also interviewing people currently for the practice that you're
Yeah,
at
I
too,
mean,
right?
yeah, at our this practice, I'm not an owner or anything, but I do have a hand in who's hired, but I will say it is very like I'm experiencing what you're experiencing, Amber. It's just kind of like I don't know. You're just looking at a resume, right? You're not
Mhm.
really knowing if this person's going to work or how they're going to fit in
Yeah.
with the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And that was my other follow-up question. Like once you do the video interview and you're like, okay, this person's great, do you kind of do an interview with everyone else in the clinic or is it kind of just like, nope, you're
Nope.
good. You're going to fit in well. Like you have that
So
much confidence.
so when we first started this, we had a team that was really, like, there's that old saying, getting the right people on the bus and the right seats on the bus. We didn't even have a bus. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't even, we had a moped.
Yeah. That's what I have
It
right
was
now.
right. I mean, it was terrible, right? So what ended up happening is we got serious about this. We started to see what can happen, like the strength and the incredible uh, ability of this system to find these performers. And so our ops manager, who runs both Build My Team and he oversees the practice, he's not the practice manager, but he did a spreadsheet, which I'd never seen before. It was an old operations trick because he's got 30 years of ops experience running businesses. Each person was either green, yellow, red.
Mhm.
And It was a traffic light for the team. The red, these are people that they might have been great, but they're in the wrong role. They're flat
Mhm.
out in the wrong role for them. They didn't do a single thing all day that capitalized on their strengths or talents. They were just poor performers.
Mhm.
And folks who are listening to this, you gotta separate the mentality of a poor performer from the role. Okay.
Yeah.
They can be a terrific person, but being asked every day to do something they're terrible at, it
Yeah.
doesn't make them a bad person. It makes them the wrong person for the job. And
Yeah.
those are two different things. So what I learned is that when, that they don't want to disappoint you. They want to try hard. They're trying to please you,
Mhm.
but they can't because they don't possess the ability to actually accomplish what you're asking them to do.
Yeah.
By releasing them from that, it's a freeing experience. It's massively positive. Sure, there might be some bumps in the road, but they get to move to a position. You're helping them move to a
Mhm.
position that they can be excellent at. So what Frank did is he took. We were at 14 team members.
Wow.
We went from 14 down to 10, and we replaced 8 of them.
Wow.
We kept 2
Wow.
people out of
That's a big
14.
change.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you say, like, how the heck can you possibly do that? It worked so well for us that our net income more than doubled.
Mm.
Holy
I
moly.
believe
Yep.
that.
More
I
than
I
do
doubled.
believe
believe it
that.
though, because the staff runs the clinic. Like that's
Yes.
it is what it
Right.
is.
And I mean,
Yeah.
admittedly, part of it, we had 4 fewer people. And so, well, how the hell do you have 4 fewer people? Your gross income must have plummeted. Nope, went up
Yeah.
substantially.
Mhm.
Net income more than doubled. The stress in the practice, oh, good Lord, it's a fraction of what it was because the core reason why this happened is that A players want to work with A players. A
Mhm.
players will tolerate B players, and A players will leave their job because of C players. How fast
Yeah.
can I get out of here? You guys
Yes.
don't have any idea what you're doing. I'll never excel in my role. I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Yes.
know they're terrific. They're going to get another job that afternoon,
Mhm.
Mhm.
super fast, especially in this market. So if your team is one A player and a bunch of C players, what you have to do is take out of those team members, you have to take the person who's in the worst fit for the role and you have to replace them.
Yeah.
Replace them with an A player.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, like our net went up so high because we're 4 people less each year. And that's a big number, right?
Yeah. That's
Um,
huge.
Also, the remaining team members were they're the right people on the bus. They're in the right seats on the bus. And since they're great at their jobs, we give them the leeway to, wait for it, drum roll, please, do their jobs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
actually do
Yeah.
their jobs. We
And not
get
pick
out
up
of the,
after other people
yeah,
who
we
aren't
get out of
doing
the
their job.
way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So the A players in most practices walk around the place with a dustpan and a broom, just cleaning up after everybody
Yeah.
all day long.
Yes.
Yeah.
They can't perform because they're trying to do 3 people's jobs,
Mhm.
Yes.
which I will tell you definitively, they can do 3 people's jobs, but they can't do those jobs when those 3 people are continuously messing things up.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
Right?
true.
God. This is like resonating
Yeah.
with me so much. No, it's true. I think
Yeah.
every OD that's been in practice for at least a few years know who their A players are and know
Yes.
who the C players are. And it's
Yeah.
100% true. A players can multitask, so they
Yeah.
can do the job of
But
all these other C
yeah,
players, but it's just the C players that are really dragging them down.
dragging
It's
everyone
true. Like
down.
once you
Yeah.
lose that A player, because you're right, they know they'll be able to get a job
Yep.
anywhere because they're good.
So they'll leave.
Then you're left with these C players and you're like, should we just hire 5 more people to figure out what's
Yeah.
going on? Like, why is there constant mistakes? Why is this not working? Why is
Mhm.
this process not working? It's
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of the yeah, it's
And
a huge
the,
frustration.
the
And
answers to those are things like, why is this process not working? Well, the build my team approach is we would tell you that particular individual can't follow process on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
right? In healthcare, you need people who are completely comfortable doing the same thing
Yeah.
over and over and
Yeah.
over
Mhm.
again,
Yeah.
right? Because like let's take a scribe, for example. Do you guys work with scribes?
No, not yet.
No. How about techs? Do you have techs doing
Yes.
your
Yes.
pre-testing and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll use the example of techs. Your tech walks in the morning and gets creative. Now,
No.
first of all, from the looks on your
What does that
faces.
mean?
No.
That could go either two ways.
Yeah,
Do the same thing you're supposed to
no, no,
do
no,
every
no. We're
day.
not going to do the same thing today. We're going to get creative. So today,
Oh, Lord.
I'm going to take photos. I'm going to do OS and then OD. I'm going to present all the information, OS, OD, but by lunch, I'm going to switch it to OD and then OS.
Yeah, no.
And oh yeah, geez, yeah, the fields. Oh, I forgot to do the fields. Sorry, was distracted. Can't do that. Well, guess what? Whether that person's the nicest person or not, they gotta go because they can't follow the process. So when you run up against that type of person, what that tells me is that they weren't being selected for their ability to follow process.
Yeah.
And therefore your practice just decided to donate 10, 15, $20,000 to inefficiency.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you can never, ever get off the ground, right?
Yeah.
Does it have to be that way? Well, if you're not selecting people for the role that you want them to fill, and when I mean the role, like literally the strengths and talents required
Yeah.
to be a superstar on this role, then that's the outcome you're going to get in some form or another.
Yeah.
Where that won't happen and where I'll be dead wrong is when you get lucky.
Yeah.
Does Build My Team, so say if a clinic wants to work with Build My Team, do they assess the current employees there? Like
To get a sense of like
to get
who
a
you're
sense of,
looking
okay, is this
for
an A
out of the
player?
applicants?
Like,
Yeah,
what
it's
if
a
it's
service
an OD
it's a
that's like,
service we
I want to
offer.
switch up my team here, but let's
Yep.
assess my current players.
Total service that we offer. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's inexpensive to do. Surprisingly, very few ODs take us up on that. I don't know exactly why. I mean, I
I
think
think
a
it's we're
lot of
too nice.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm
yes,
gonna say
yeah.
optometrists are the nice Canadians of like the healthcare professions, right? Deepon and I have said that on our podcast
That's
before.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that came from Dr. Richard Maharaj. I think he was the
Yeah.
one when we talked about personality types.
Yeah.
So optometry is a certain personality type, and yeah, we're probably just too nice. We don't want you to analyze our staff and make them feel bad and make us
Yeah.
want to like have to fire someone or
Right.
Yeah.
replace someone. We're just too nice and we're going to just put up with the terrible staff we have and be okay with it.
Well, boy, I mean, as we're joking about, I'm just staring into space thinking that's he's like a prophet saying something like that. I mean, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
many ODs are comfortable with that. And if look,
Yeah.
Because they don't
if
see the
you
other side. They don't see
Yeah.
what's possible. I feel like it's
Yeah.
because so many ODs complain about this and then it's like,
They
oh,
think
you're
it's
having a
normal.
staffing problem? Me too. That's
It's
life. Let's
normal.
move on. But it's like
Yeah.
they don't know what's possible. I think that's why.
Yeah.
and so I ran into this problem about a month ago. I was on a podcast, 2020 Money podcast,
Oh, yeah.
with Adam.
Yeah.
He's
Fantastic
great.
interviewer. Yeah,
Yeah.
really, really good at what he does. So I was on that podcast and I talked a lot about numbers. I mean, it's a financial podcast. We talk
Yeah.
about that stuff because his listeners are interested in it. And what I found out after the fact is that he got a bunch of calls from, communication from his listeners saying that I was full of crap. There's no possible way that what he's saying is actually working. And so he emailed me about that. He was terrific about it because he's a great guy and emailed me about it. And so I got on a Zoom with him and I showed him our tax returns.
Nice.
Mm.
And then I showed him QuickBooks and I walked him all the way through QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And sure enough, wasn't making it up or anything like that. But you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail absolutely on the head. And there's this old quote: the person at the bottom of the mountain doesn't know what the view from the top looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm not at the top of the mountain by any means. From how a team performs, I got to tell you, we're inside of the summit.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
most certainly that way.
Yeah.
So once you're at once you have the viewpoint from the higher end of the mountain, there's no going back.
Yeah.
Right.
Very true.
We like to stabilize things. We like to, the nice side of things is tremendous. But you also got to remember those people, if they're unhappy in their positions, the actual nicest thing you could do would be to help them find a position that they're fantastic at.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Very
you
true.
remember earlier I said that we replaced all but 2 people. One of those people worked at our front desk and as a secretary for, oh, good Lord, a while. She was super friendly, just a wonderful person. Like, I'm talking a wonderful person. She could not ask for money.
Mm.
Mm.
If a patient couldn't afford a copay, oh, we'll get you
Oh.
next time. Just one thing after another. We were
Mm.
getting, we were getting just killed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we did instead, because normally she would have been fired, um,
Mhm.
what we did instead is, as our practice grew, we moved her to what we call a patient coordinator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she does part-time billing, like not billing so much as insurance authorizations and those things, which she doesn't mind doing, but she's a patient coordinator. So she handles all of our referrals. And
Mhm.
whenever we refer somebody there, she'll walk into the exam room. She gets it all scheduled. She gives them the driving directions. I mean, she'll
Oh,
bake them cookies on for the drive on the way. She's
Oh.
perfect at it.
Yeah.
I
yes.
cannot tell you. She went from almost getting canned to
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Why did that happen? Because we moved her from an area that uses her weaknesses all day long to one
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
uses her strengths all day long.
Yeah.
And she went from at that point, the worst person on the team to the best
Best
person on the
person.
team
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
by
great
moving
example.
internally. Yeah.
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 And you just created like a new role for a person that you never thought that your practice would even need. So like for example,
Yeah.
I don't work at any practice that has a patient coordinator. We don't
Mhm.
have staff members going into the exam room and explaining the referral process to a
Right.
patient. But now that you just brought that up, I'm already thinking in my head, that's a great position to have for the clinic. Like now I'm actually thinking there's another opportunity for my current team or
Hmm.
a new
Mhm.
team member to do something else in my practice that
Yeah.
I'm actually lacking in.
Well, and in her particular case, her empathy is off the charts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she
Mhm.
will move mountains to get patients. I mean, move
Yeah.
mountains to get them the care that they need. And guess
Yeah.
what? When you're at the referral level, that's exactly what you want. And then
Yeah.
from our
Exactly.
practice standpoint, how do we pay for that? Well, we don't have patients who don't show up for referral appointments. It's
Yeah.
very few and far between.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, because the path is paved completely. She calms them down from an anxiety standpoint. You name it, it's all done.
Yeah.
When you think of the risk for patients not showing up, the lawsuits, the whatever it might be, we're not running into that because we make the process so easy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, because we capitalize on her strengths.
Mike, I have a question that may interest some of our listeners who are not practice owners.
Hmm.
So they're not, part of the active hiring process, but would Build My Team also be applicable to ODs that are looking for associate ODs? Because, you could hire any OD because they can do the job just like you can. We
Yeah.
all learned the same
Right.
techniques in school. But even I'm thinking in the future, I want a certain persona, in my practice.
Hmm.
I want a certain vibe in my practice, and
Yep.
I want people to practice in a similar way that I do. So would Build My Team work in that aspect for finding or filtering out associate ODs?
We do it differently for associates. Now, we do not hire associates.
Mhm.
There are all kinds of recruiting companies that do that. We're not a recruiting company in a traditional sense. So
Okay.
we don't hire ODs. Got to be crystal clear about that. The answer is yes, we can assess anybody as long as they're willing
Mhm.
to do it. But for associates, it's done differently. We just brought on an associate to our practice, and she ran through the full battery of assessments that we have.
Oh,
It
okay.
wasn't done to accept or reject her. It was
Mhm.
done to find out what her strengths are,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
because we customized our onboarding and training process, heavily customized the heck out of it
Mhm.
to hammer away at her strengths. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
she's walking into an exam room with a different approach than my wife or I do on the OD side of things, because we practice together, because her approach is utilizing those strengths. So
Mhm.
we tailored all of this stuff so that she comes out of the gate just swinging every
Yeah.
day.
Okay.
What we didn't have to do is wait 5 years until we actually learned the stuff about her and go through every speed bump
Yeah.
imaginable, because we shortcutted the process so spectacularly. She's doing incredibly well and she's a
Mhm.
new grad, like
Mhm.
incredibly well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's also the training side of things too, right? So
Yeah.
we know how she communicates. We know how there's pages and pages of information that we have on how to best lay the groundwork for her to be stupendously successful. And it's
Got it.
working.
Got
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
So even though you don't hire associates, Build My Team can be used to just assess the associates, how they think, how they problem solve,
Yep.
what their personality is like, and all
Yeah, we
that
can do
good
it on our
stuff.
clients too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That gets dicey because a lot of clients don't want to know.
Yeah.
In school, we're not taught how to run a practice. We're not taught any of that stuff, right?
Mhm.
So you roll into a practice, and the first thing your team is looking for is direction. They want to be told what to do. Well, guess
Yeah.
what? I mean, the first thing you can do is say, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea,
Yeah.
but we're going to
Yeah.
find this out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as docs, especially when we're new to this, we don't want to lack confidence. We don't want to
Right.
let them know that we have no idea what we're doing. When you immediately find out what your strengths are, now you bring in team members that aren't strong in the areas you are. You want people
Mhm.
who are strong in areas that you're terrible at.
Yeah. I mean, Build My Team sounds awesome. I mean, you've definitely sold me. I definitely would have looked into this if I didn't just hire somebody
Yep.
last week.
Mhm.
Thank God for those paper resumes. I found one out
Yep.
of
You
Good.
can
20.
still do you can still do an assessment on them though and see
Yeah, I think that
what
would be
their
really
strengths are.
interesting actually, just so I can get a
Mhm.
sense of, because it's true. I mean, when you're hiring someone in the traditional sense, I hired someone that I believe currently is amazing and great for the role. But you're right. I'm not going to know until a couple of months go by.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that's why we have probation periods. So
Right.
that's that's why we put those in place, because you think it could be great and then you don't know if it's going to work out or not until
Yeah.
you get to know them.
Yeah.
Well, of course. I mean,
So your
even,
process is great.
you look at just the interview process. When was the last time you hired somebody who had a bad interview? Right? You don't,
Yeah.
right? So you
Mhm.
only hire somebody when they have a terrific interview.
Yeah.
Yet so many people don't work out. The
Yeah.
Yes.
ergo, the interview process is flawed.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
So
Oh,
true.
there's one other thing I was going to mention with regards to the right seats on the bus. So in our practice, this was a shocking statistic that came out of hiring over the years. Guess what percentage of people who apply for job A end up getting job A versus move to, let's say, job B in our practice? Drum roll.
So a big percent?
50%. It's almost
Oh
exactly
wow.
50%. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you think about that too, right? That gets back to the right seats on the bus.
Yeah.
They apply for a job. They don't know what the job's all about. Like,
Yeah.
come on,
Yeah.
nobody
Oh,
knows.
okay.
Like,
Yeah.
what's an
Yeah.
optician? Well, they
Yeah.
help with glasses. Okay, well, nobody who's an optician would ever sum themselves up as that, right?
Yeah.
You got to be part psychologist. You got to be
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so they apply for the job, and then what happens is our strengths and talents tell us that they would be a better fit for a different job a different role within the practice. So we move them, and they're happy. They don't
Oh,
care,
yeah.
assuming that the hours are similar or the same, and the
Hmm.
the pay similar or better, that type of thing. But what does happen on the practice side of things is they're vastly more successful in the job, and they stay
Because
Hmm.
longer.
Yeah.
they're working towards their strengths, so they like it more too.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
Yeah,
enjoy
they're
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yep. So they
They
wake up in
enjoy
the morning, they
working.
roll into work, they do a terrific job. They don't understand why it's special.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah. But
understand
they
why it's
do it.
special. People,
No more sick calls for you, Michael.
Yeah.
No one
yeah,
calling it sick.
yeah. I mean, who wants to go into work when you hate the job?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
It's so
are
true.
you
No, it's
really
true.
sick? Well, we both know that's not the case,
Yeah.
but you hate the job. We do know that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Dr. Neal, thank you so much for coming on and telling us all about Build My Team.
Thank you.
This
Yeah.
really, yeah, this really does sound like an amazing program that more practice owners need to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And if anyone is interested in
Mhm.
getting Build My Team services for their practice, how do they go about it, and how do they contact you or find
Yep.
your information
Oh,
to
thanks.
get started?
Yeah, so buildmyteam.com. That's where they want to go. Schedule a consult with our team members. It's free, of course. And what our team members are going to do is ask you what role you're looking to hire. They help streamline that, figure out exactly, like drill down on exactly who you want. Then they write the job description, publish it to all those job boards, and take it from there. So with Build My Team, we have clients who will hire people with end to end from that phone call, the start of that phone call, to actually hiring somebody with less than an hour's worth of work.
Wow. Okay.
You can
That's
do that.
awesome.
Yeah. And that's how dialed in the system is.
And this still works for Canadian clinics as well, like
Yep.
us in Canada and everything. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much again, Dr. Neal. And
Thank you both.
yeah, thank you for coming on the podcast. I think we learned a lot, and
Yeah.
it's nice to hear another person telling us that we're not crazy with all the staff problems we've all experienced as owners and as associate ODs. We're all in the struggle together, and hopefully Deepon and I will get on the same bus that you are on, because right now we're still on the struggle bus, but we want to get on the better bus, on the Build My Team bus.
We'll go from the struggle bus to the magic bus. How's that?
To the magic bus. Yeah, I think we're ready for that now.
Yeah, we don't have to tolerate the struggle bus anymore, how most of us
hilarious.
ODs are.
I want to get off. I want to get off. Thanks everyone for listening to Four Eyes, the podcast series brought to you by Young OD Connect. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram or YouTube at Four Eyes Optom for more content. We'll see you next time. Bye.